This is Reg Hart at the Cineforum in Toronto, which is based out of my home. And you may never have heard of me, but I'm a fella up here in Toronto who has been doing work with film and giving talks and for decades, and I'm self-funded and I don't have any money, so that's an interesting thing. And I'm going to give $1,000 of my money to the person between the ages of 18 and 27 who makes the best new animated cartoon with the 1928 public domain version of Mickey Mouse. Now you have to use the 1928 version of the mouse, but you don't have to set the film in 1928. In fact, I will give you a story, so I'll be your writer. But here's the deal. I don't want you to have studied art beyond the modicum. I don't want you to have gone to any animation school. I've posted a thing on my blog about this, and I put a link to the book that Walt borrowed from his library in Kansas City that showed him how to make animated cartoons. He was 18 when he started, and he had created for Universal Pictures, Carl Laemmle was the head of Universal Pictures, a cartoon character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was a success. And Walt took the train to New York in 1928 to get Oswald renewed. And his producer, a man named Charles Mitz, said to Disney, "You got to make these pictures for less money." Walt said, "It can't be done. I'm making them as cheap as I can make them." The man said, "I know a way to cut the cost." And Disney said, "How's that?" Mr. Mitz said, "I don't need you. I've hired all your artists, except one." So there's Walt with his wife. He thinks he's king of the world. Everything's working fine, and then the rug is ripped out from under him. Now, I've been there several times. I'm sure quite a few have. And he gets on the train to go back to Hollywood, and instead of having joy in his heart, he's got gloom. But he wasn't a quitter, and he doodled up on that train ride a mouse. You want to call him Mortimer, Mouse. And he doodled that mouse up with a penny, a nickel, a dime, and a quarter. And anybody could draw it, because Walt was flat broke. They told me we thought Walt was going to go broke, and he fooled us by going broke in reverse. And he gets back to the studio, and that one artist that hadn't signed the contract was Ub Iwerks, who was the guy he'd started out with in 1925 at the Kansas City Ad Company. Well, a little bit before that. And he said, "Here's what's happened." And Ub said, "Those sons of bitches, those backstab, I knew something was up. Okay, well, we can do this." And they made the first couple of them, but they were silent. And Walt realized that he needed an edge. He needed to do something that nobody else was doing. So he got the idea to sound synchronize this cartoon, and they did. Now, he had to raise the money and go to New York. He didn't have the money. Understand that? No money at all. And he goes to New York, and the man with the orchestra thinks he's smart, and Walt isn't. And what they got was unusable, although the fellow was proud of it. So they had to scrape up the money again. This time they did it the way Walt wanted it, and it got done right. And they took it around to people to show it, and all the exhibitors said, "Nobody comes out for a cartoon. Nobody comes out for a cartoon. No interest." But he ran into the greatest showman of the moment. That was Samuel Rothafel, better known as Roxy. And Roxy said, "We'll put this in the Colony Theater," which was 1,500 seats. And he pumped the hell out of that cartoon, and he packed the theater for his cartoon. And then after a couple of weeks, he moved it to the Roxy Theater, which was 5,000 seats, and packed the theater for that cartoon. And that set off a tsunami that just made every theater in the world want that mouse. It was a combination of the cartoon and the fact that a first-class showman got behind it. So that was what set Walt back on the path. Now, in 1932, the censors stepped in and mamas and papas stepped in and they'd seen what a rascal Mickey was, and Mickey got bowdlerized. That's a polite word that means he got his balls cut off. He had to start being a good boy, a Boy Scout, and Walt was screwed. They put a gun to his head and that was it. So Mickey essentially died in 1930. I'm not interested in Mickey Mouse after 1930. I'm interested in Mickey Mouse in 1928, 1929, and 1930. I've got faith that out there, this is why I don't want you to have gone to animation school, young men and women start school with the feeling in their heart that they're going to conquer the world. And they spend 5 years in academia and come out looking for someone to give them a job. And then they cry when they can't get a job, and they wind up working as a waiter or a waitress or a cab driver or a ditch digger or whatever those 5 years. They've got to be paid for it.